All right, welcome to a new episode of Protocol Explorer. So today I have Patrick with me, who's going to be telling me a little bit about AO, the computer. Patrick, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us what you do, where you work, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm Patrick. I'm the lead DevRel for Forward Research. We build all kinds of different products and projects and everything inside of Arweave. So the most recent project that we've been working on is this really awesome decentralized compute called AO, and that's been what I've been focusing on. I'm also a pretty active developer DAO member, so shout out to any of the developer DAO members out there. And yeah.
Cool, man. So yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple of videos on AO. There's a lot of hype on Twitter going around. I think a lot of people are very excited to dive deeper into it. So can you give us just like an overview of what AO is, what you're trying to achieve, and all that stuff?
Yeah, sorry, the most timely phone call ever. Anyways, so AO actually it's this decentralized computation, which is something that like we've heard of all kinds of different things. We've heard of like proof of work, and we've heard of there's been decentralized everything except decentralized compute. So like, what is decentralized compute? First, to understand a little bit about the problem that is being seen right now, especially in the world of AI, is computation itself is this ever-evolving conversation in itself. Like we've kind of hit this computation ceiling in the world where we're running out of computation, and that's why you see stocks like Nvidia skyrocketing, and you see Sam Altman pitching like multi-trillion-dollar projects for like this whole processing chip project that he's putting together, and it's just this ever-growing demand. I mean, you even see like I think one of my favorites right now is like Extropic AI, which, I mean, if you've ever heard of Guillaume Verdon, or AKA Beth Bezos, you probably heard of him. He's a co-founder for Extropic, and he's trying to like break through that computation ceiling by using thermodynamic physics, which is just out of this world. So computation itself is a crazy and cool conversation. Now, what we're doing is, you would imagine, like, obviously, just like any blockchain out there, every single blockchain has all of these nodes or validators that run computation. And with AO, we actually use the computation available from those validators or those nodes to be able to create a singular decentralized computer. And this computer has the ability to actually run things rather than congruently. It runs them in parallel. So what's like the big difference between like congruent computation versus like parallel computation is essentially you are able to actually run tasks in parallel rather than having to kind of distribute and make sure that your processing is done in some sort of linear way, even though you can still run things simultaneously on your own computer, because your own computer uses congruent computation. Because I mean, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be able to use Spotify at the same time that we're in our coding terminal or anything like that. But with parallel computation, that vastly expands the capabilities of what we can do with computation and what we can do as inside of a shared computer. So that's pretty much in a very tight nutshell what AO is. And now, I guess the next question is like, why would we do something like this? So a couple things is we have the ability now to build things like LLMs that are fully decentralized and maybe even lack ownership. Like they're just or maybe they have multiple ownerships or anything like that. And so there is a vast number of reasons that you can do that there are just to be able to run things inside of a decentralized computer. Some of the other things that you could do is maybe access of information. we have a new Oracle that is still kind of like working out some kinks and everything, but there's an Oracle that's called Orbit, that you can actually pull real-time information, whether it's like price feed information or news feed information, and you can pull that into AO, and then you can actually build your own autonomous AI agents, and those agents can basically create action, or make actions based on information received. And so in this case, let's say a price feed, I think a project that would be really, really cool as a solid example at some point is to create like a paper trading, bot that kind of like fictitiously trades inside of AO based on price feed information. And it would do that with full autonomy. You don't have to do anything as long as you build your handlers and things like that in order to be able to, react in specific ways due to the information received. It's totally viable. Now, the next thing is like, as soon as you can take, let's say you build a chat room, an LLM, or anything like that, it's very easy to hand off ownership. Right. It's very easy to distribute ownership between multiple owners, or it's even easy to just relinquish ownership entirely and make it an existing autonomous agent on its own that runs on its own process or on its own handlers that you built on it for it, and people can interact with this autonomous AI agent that has no owner, kind of thing. And so if you just kind of think about all of those potential possibilities, it's pretty vast. And so it's a lot of fun to play with, and just kind of talking in the community and seeing what everybody has done so far. It's kind of wild to think, okay, it was only 2 weeks ago, everybody's inside the terminal and we're just like banging out some interesting handlers and messages, and we're kind of sitting in chat rooms inside of a terminal and just talking to each other. But then at today's point, we have a few community members. I'll shout them out real quick. I am Game Lovers 1, and he's really cool, really great builder inside of the AO community. And he built basically a Twitter clone, but it's fully powered by AO. So all your messages and stuff like that are, they're being sent through AO. So it's running through some sort of decentralized computation. Your images and stuff like that are saved on our drive automatically. And so from end to end, the entire project is fully decentralized. And so there's no, conversation of like, because we've heard this with every single decentralized social media app, is like, well, most of it is decentralized except for like maybe 1, 2, 3 of these components. But in this case, when you actually have the computation itself being able to be run so easily in the back end using decentralized computation, then you've really opened up a huge world of capabilities to really decentralize things from front to back. I think the next thing that is happening too, another community member I'll actually shout out really quick is Simon Friend. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right. You can call me out if I butchered it, sorry. But Simon, he is a Unity engineer, and he built it's so cool. If I get a second near the end, I might actually show it. But he built a Unity engine that actually displays games that are running inside of AO. So instead of like the idea, like
games on AO, or
oh, absolutely, yeah. So this is the coolest part. So like, just the conversation where people are like, oh yeah, Web3 games. We haven't really had Web3 games, because they're really like Web 2.2, 2.5, because there's only like 1 or 2 assets in there that are really like anything decentralized or on chain. It's usually like the game currency, or like the items in the game are NFTs or whatever. That's it. But as far as like the game, the visuals, the displays and all that stuff, none of that is actually on chain. While what he did is, when he built his Unity engine, the entire, like even the moves in the combat and stuff like that between these bots that he inside this game are all ran on AO.
Hmm.
And I honestly think that's just one of the coolest things. Is like you've really like raised the bar as to what is capable inside of like Web3 games at that point. And you're talking about like the hitting left, right, up, down just became decentralized. And that's something like that you never thought would be possible. So yeah, AO's unlocking some really, really cool things.
Definitely. No, that's very cool. You did during that mention a little bit about messages, and I think we have a question actually from X from this person, last MJS.
Yeah.
So he says, please explain verifiability of messages and processes, especially across processes. How do processes trust messages coming from other processes?
So this is where we get really, really in the nitty gritty of like the process of like Su's, Ku's, and Mu's. And to be perfectly honest, I want to make sure that this question is answered in the most correct way possible. So I'll copy paste this and kick this over to Tom because he's the lead engineer behind AO. And so as far as like verifiability messages, I do know that they've had to make so many different changes to be able to increase scalability, but also to ensure verifiability and everything. And so because there's these changes happening, I want to make sure that he gets to answer that question. This is a great question. I'll actually kick that over to him right meow. And then as soon as I actually get an answer back, I'll reference back to it because this is a really, really good question. Let's see, give me just a second, make sure I get this over to him. But yeah, so that's pretty much AO in a nutshell. Any other questions or anything that I've missed?
Looks like that's the one that came up right now. I have a question for me. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around, I guess, like, so there's AO, there's Arweave. Is AO built on Arweave? Is it a separate thing entirely? I'm just like unsure about that side of things.
Yeah, so AO is built on Arweave. Okay. And yeah, so back to the part where I was talking about like every single chain has these nodes and validators and everything. So essentially the computers that are providing computation for AO are the Arweave nodes and validators. And so that's pretty much how AO operates, is by using the exact same nodes that Arweave is built off of.
Got it. Yeah. That makes sense now.
Now this is a cool thing too, is one of the really difficult things is, you have things like Smart Weave and you have like your smart contracts and everything. Moving atomic assets really wasn't ever very easy or possible in certain cases, where AO makes it extremely easy to be able to actually transfer atomic assets or anything, things like that. And so making sure that things are verifiable and things like that, but also doing it in a very easy way without having to spin up whole new contracts sometimes, AO really helps alleviate that issue as well. So there's another benefit of using AO.
Gotcha. Cool. Last MJS got a couple more questions. Don't want to talk about price, but I would like to know if AO will have its own token. Will this token be necessary or absolutely required for process to execute? And would it be possible to use, for example, USDC to pay for everything?
Yeah. So I'm just reading it again. If would like to know if AO will have its own token, will this token be necessary? Absolutely required for process to execute. Would it be possible to use example USD? Okay, so at this point, we haven't released a lot of information on this part yet. What I can say at this point is we do have our testnet cred, and testnet cred is what's kind of being earned and when you do quests and things like that, and that's also what's being used to stake for various different things that you can do. Now, you can you can swap testnet cred for a couple of different tokens that exist inside of AO, which we'll talk about, like deploying tokens and everything as well. That'll be kind of the process of the tutorial today as well. Is like, how easy is it to deploy a token? And so when and then there are 2 stable coins that are actually going to be deployed inside of AO. So realistically, I can presume in this case that there will be some sort of viability of using something like there is a wrapped USDT that is being set up and deployed inside of AO, and then there's a wrapped AR that is being set up and deployed inside of AO as well. I'm not sure if they're deployed yet, but so the idea of possibly using something like USDC or USDT or wrapped AR or something like that, that is a viable possibility. That's about as much as I can say at that point. And then let's see. And then he had one more. He said, I think USDC's decentralized SaaS provider would be quite unique, possibly very intriguing, kind of like, yeah. So I think this is kind of the direction that things are going as well, because obviously stability in, like, let's say managing your own dApps and things like that, that's one of the hardest things to deal with sometimes, is because of the volatility that comes with just decentralized storage in general. If you look at any of the other chains that focus on any type of decentralized storage, they often have to rely on some sort of token that isn't necessarily like a stable coin, and that creates a lot of volatility, especially depending on how reliant a dApp or a business or a company, anything like that, it is on that specific product. So as soon as volatility goes up, and then decentralized storage cost goes up because the coin that they rely on to be able to do any type of storage or computation went up, you've created a kind of a big problem for your company by relying on that decentralized storage. Well, in this case, and this is something that I do know is being worked on, is having some of that stability using stable coins and stuff like that to be able to manage your computation, to be able to manage your decentralized storage, is paramountly important to create stability within a company. And it's it's necessity as far as relying on those type of products. So yeah.
Nice, cool. Thank you for answering all those questions. Awesome. Should we get into things?
Yeah, let's do this. Okay. So first and foremost, I'm gonna jump right into looking at some of like how to even like get started. How the hell do we get into AO? And it all starts inside your terminal. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Let's see here. Share screen. Entire screen. Boom. Okay. All right. I think that's pretty nice and big that everybody can see it, without making it like overly large. Here we go. So perfect. Okay.
Cool.
And so the first thing that you want to get into is just kind of like understanding how do I install the gateway so I can immediately start playing with AO. So it's really easy. All you have to do is you just take this line of code here. So it's an npm package. It's a global install, and it's just this gateway URL. And so as soon as you hit enter, that's going to install everything for you. Now, I personally have it installed, but it might be interesting because as soon as I spin mine up, I might actually have to update it. So let's just let's do live stream. Okay, so to start your AOS process, you're going to type in AOS, but to start a unique AOS process, you're just going to add a name to it. So my general AOS process that I use for kind of everything is just AOS. But for this live stream specifically, I'm just going to use live stream. Let's hit enter, and let's just see if it tells me I need to update or anything like that. And it's going to go through. Okay, so it gave me this unique process. I see. Okay, now I do have to update, which is really easy. Just hit yes. It updated for me, and then I'm just going to type in iOS live stream again. There we go. All right, so I had this new unique AOS or this AOS process. This is unique to the name. So anytime, a common question I get is like, well, if I exit out of the AOS process, is it going to stay the same? Yes. Now I'm going to just hit Control C twice. That helps me get out of the process. And then if I type in AOS live stream again, it just keeps that same process ID, just for starters. Now, if I name the AOS process something different, then it's going to give me a new AOS process ID that's associated specifically to that name. So
if
why is this?
Would I get that as well?
Say it again.
If I were to type in AOS live stream, would I also get that same process?
No, this is unique to your machine.
Okay.
Yeah. So now there is a process, like if I wanted to like take this process and actually like transfer ownership to you, that is possible. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but just so you know, that is a capability. But why would I want to have like multiple processes? Well, this is actually pretty important because you may want to develop, let's say, a game. I want to create a multiplayer game, and in this multiplayer game, people need to interact with multiple NPCs, other autonomous AI agents. Well, every single agent is, in essence, just like a normal game, you're going to have to program that character. Well, each character will have their own process ID, and then you're going to set up all the handlers so that they respond to specific things, differently. Maybe they have you've got their health and their attack points and all that stuff all built into their process ID. So that's the only reason why you would want to have multiple processes. I think the most I've heard is Tom had like 20 processes running all at once or something like that on his computer. And I think he was just like really trying to break his AOS or the AO effect arena game. And yeah, it seemed to work pretty cleanly. So, but yeah, you can run multiple processes simultaneously. So, okay, so this is how you've pretty much started your process. And then next is how do I get involved? How do I get like really started into understanding what's going on inside of AOS? So the first thing I'll do is I'll just actually load a blueprint. And you're going to see this a lot where I use .load dash blueprint space chat. Now, anytime I have this blueprint, that means that this is going to load a series of handlers. So why handlers instead of, let's say, functions? We're using Lua instead of JavaScript or anything like that. And this is because with handlers, it's because we're using a lot of asynchronous messaging. And Handlers does a really, really good job of being able to handle asynchronous messaging this way, and it does it very lightly. There's a lot of other reasons that we use Lua, but this is kind of like a condensed reason. I'll type in chat here. Okay, perfect. So we're going to see a little bit of information here. I'm actually going to zoom back out just a little bit because I see that I've kind of went too far in. But this gives me a list of commands. I've been onboarded basically into AO Dev Chat, and I could see a list of chat rooms. This is how I join. This is how I send a message. I can see, I can replay some old messages. I can leave a room, and then I can actually tip people with some testnet cred. Maybe somebody gave me some cool information, or maybe they sent me something cool or something like that. So next thing is I want to look at the quests. I want to see what is currently available. What can I attack right now and develop inside of AO? So first thing I want to do is I want to look at lists. So I'm just going to type in list. It's going to generate a list of chat rooms for me. Perfect. So I have 3 chat rooms available, and there's random, quests, and getting started. So this is pretty cool. On quests, I don't need to add a nickname, but on getting started, I do want to add a nickname so that people can kind of associate who they're talking to. And I'll show you just how to do that right now. So you just type in join. We're going to join the getting started chat room, and I'm going to say getting started. And then I'm going to put a comment. I'm just going to put PS Tech. That's going to be my nickname for this one. Here we go. Okay, so that that's going to get me registered to that chat room. And you'll probably even at the same time, you may even see some people messaging and everything actively in this chat room now that I've joined it. And then the last but not least, I'll join the quests. And I don't need because you don't necessarily communicate inside quests, but you do want to use a command like /quests. And this is going to be able to show me exactly like what quests are currently available and what I can do. It kind of list everything out, and I can even pull the description information of those quests for the chat room. But sorry, I do need to say quests. So in order to do that, I'll just say /quests. And that's going to generate a list of quests for me. It's going to broadcast that message for me, and it's going to show me what quests are necessarily available. Sweet. Okay, so I've got this list of quests, and these are the cred balances I can earn from doing each of these quests. So there's some pretty cool stuff in here that I can do, and so the begin quest is the one that we're going to go through. Bots and games, if we have a little bit of extra time, we might start that process. Build a bot is also kind of part of the same process. We won't build an arena game just yet. AOS UI is really cool because that's those people that built, like, let's say AO Twitter. That's a good one. And excellent. So I see your message right there, and it actually just populated the exact same quest. So I just saw in real time, you being able to request the quest information. So now, and you can do this with me too, we can do, say, quests. Oops, I need to add this / here, quests. And then I'm just going to add, I want to look up the information specifically on quest 1. So I'll hit :1 and then say that. And then that will pull the specific information and give me the description of just quest 1. And if you want, you can actually request, the information for, like, let's say quest 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And so yeah, here we go. Perfect. So we have the begin quest information here, and it says, in this fun exercise, you'll encounter a series of challenges presented by 2 familiar characters, Morpheus and Trinity. You'll dive deep into the rabbit hole, guided by Morpheus as he presents you with a series of challenges to prove you are the one. And so this kind of information, as we go through this, we're going to learn how to, 1, create a chat room, 2, how to invite people to a chat room, 3, how to create a token, and then 4, how to token gate a chat room. Okay, so to do this a little bit more, I'm going to pull up my my terminal. It's been, it's really easy to see everything here. Sorry, not to pull up my terminal, but pull up my text editor. So give me just a second here to do that. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, no questions just yet, just making sure. And I'm going to create a brand new file here. Let's just say AO Fun. There we go. And open folder from the desktop, AO Fun. Cool. And let me present again. Let's see. There we go. Let's see where we're at. Okay, cool. And let me go ahead and open up my terminal as well. And I'm going to do the same. Now, the nice thing is it doesn't matter what file you're specifically in, because earlier I was kind of like in the root file of my computer. Right. But in this case, I'm now in AO-Fun. I can still use AOS live stream. Let's make this a little bit. Ooh, that's a little too big. Hold on. There we go. So I can still use AOS live stream, and it's going to still pull up that same process ID for me.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I can actually close it out here because I don't need it here anymore. Cool. All right, so now we're in this process ID, and let's start by going through the a little bit of the begin tutorial. So begin tutorial just talks about, at first we talk about like the preparations and everything. I didn't say this before, but one of the requirements you do need to be able to install the gateway is have Node.js version 20 or later. So that's pretty easy to do if you're a typical engineer. We have had, I'm sorry, ooh, sorry, but we've had a lot of fairly new developers and people that are just non-technical feel like they really weren't super intimidated by this and jump into it. So just, if you're fairly new into this or anything like that, make sure that you have Node.js installed version 20 or later. Get your process started just like we did. And then let's just get into messaging. So one of the first things that you're going to do, and I'm actually going to kick this over to you via a Telegram message. I did forget to send you this process ID. This process ID is the only thing that you're going to need in this process. And you can find, for those that are following along, you can find this process ID inside of the cookbook, which is cookbook_ao.arweave.dev. And let's see where, here we are. Here we are. Perfect. So there we go. I just messaged you that process ID, and we're going to name this this process ID. This is a cool thing to do. Let's say I have your process ID. I can take your process ID and I can turn it into a variable, just like this. Make sure I can actually see. Make sure I'm still following along here. Let's see. Where do we go? Perfect. Okay, sorry. So if I were to take this one, this process ID specifically is for Morpheus for this tutorial. So I have this process ID from the begin tutorial, and I can just hit enter. Now you're going to get a response of undefined, and that sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. It just means that it didn't have an output. It completed it. If there was an actual error to anything you wrote, then it would actually kick back an error message for you. And if you want to just ensure or be able to see the process ID again, I can just type in Morpheus, and that's going to pull that process ID for me. So perfect. We're good to go. I've got the process ID in. It's set as a variable. Now let's just talk about how a message is sent. So I'm going to send a message to Morpheus, and then he's actually going to respond. So this is a autonomous AI agent that I built for this specific tutorial that allows a lot more interactivity so you can learn. So how do we send a message? We send a message by hitting send, and then I'm going to have basically the open brackets and open parentheses here, and then I'm going to say target equals, and I'm just going to type in Morpheus because it's going to pull the process ID from that variable, and then the data of your message. So the data of the message is basically the text information. It could be numerical as well, but the text information that is sent with with any message. I'm going to hit equal, and I'm going to say Morpheus and kind of a question mark. Now he has a handler that if he receives basically exact match data, so if by sitting this question here, Morpheus, and it's exactly matching exactly what his handler dictates, he responds to that. So that's part of his the communication process with him. So I hit enter here. And it goes out the outbox, and then I just received a new message, and I can see it's partially printed here. So cool. All right. So I just got this message, and now how do I read it? So first, I want to see how many messages I have inside of my inbox, and I could type that. I could do that by just typing inbox, And with that hashtag beforehand, it specifically requests how many messages are actively inside of my inbox. Okay, so I have 5. So the last message was the 5th message. And I'm going to type in .data. So I'm pulling specifically the data of that message again. So it reads out, I'm here, you're finally awake, are you ready to see how far the rabbit hole goes? So that's kind of like the beginning of the journey. And the next step in this case is to basically say, okay, I'm ready. What's the next step? So I'm going to send another message, but in this case, I'm going to use an action in this case, a tag. So there's a tag inside this message, and now he is responding because he has a handler that is specifically meant to respond to a specific tag. So in this case, I'm going to send target again to Morpheus data, and then I'm just going to say code rabbit hole. This part isn't really necessarily important. There isn't necessarily like an exact match data or anything like that for this message. But for this part, action, and then unlock. So the unlock part is the part that he responds to. So I send that. So this unlocks the rest of the tutorial. And let's see, hold on. Okay, cool. So he sends another message, and I already know my last message was 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume it's 6. So I'm just going to type in inbox 6.data. Okay. Then he says, then let us test your readiness, create a chat room, and send me an invite. We will continue to see if you are truly ready there. Okay, cool. So like the next step of the tutorial is spinning up a chat room. So we're going to do this really easily. This is actually ridiculously easy. So all I need to do, I can write out all the handlers and everything if I want. And I can actually show really, really quick. If you have any questions about any of the blueprints that we do use, what handlers are being used inside of them and anything, and maybe if you want to modify them yourself, I'll show you how to do that. Actually, instead of using the blueprint, I'll show you really quick how the Lua code works in this case. So I'll type in chat room. Oop. Did that work? What's happening here? Here we go, new file. There we go. Chatroom.lua. Okay. So I'm going to go to the chat room blueprint here, and I'm just going to pull this up on screen. There we go. Okay, so these this is all you need for your chat room right here. And this is, if I were to type in, so I'm going to copy this, but if I were to type in right here, .load dash blueprint chat room, it would load all of these handlers. Now, I'm not going to do that in this case because I just want to show you a little bit of what the Lua code looks like. Here we go. All right. So we have 3 main components here, 2 handlers, and then basically a list. So this is the members equals members or empty bracket. So anytime I use this, I can type this in directly just like this. And that's just going to create a list for me. Oh, actually, I do need to make sure that I do this in .editor. So I type in .editor, and that gives me a kind of like an open editor that I can write Lua code in. Those members or empty brackets. And then I just hit .done. That creates that for me. And then if I type in members, it's going to just give me an empty bracket. Sweet. Okay, this is going to be the list of people that are currently inside of my chat room. Now, these handlers, this handler, it adds a handler, and this handler is called register. And it has an exact matching data of action register. And the function within the handler means that this person gets added anytime somebody uses this specific the specific tag. They get added to the list of members inside of the chat room. So, and then it will reply to me saying that I was registered to the chat room. And then to broadcast a message, meaning I'm messaging people within the chat room, I would use the tag broadcast. In this case, same thing. It would iterate, make sure to broadcast a message to all of the available members inside of the chat room. That's all I need for the chat room. So now, how do I differentiate one chat room from another chat room? Let's say I want to join your chat room. Well, your chat room is associated to the process ID you're setting the chat room up with. So in this case, I don't have your process ID at the moment, but if I did, if I were to say, let's say send target, and I saved your process ID as Rahat, and then I added an action register, and I can add data to it if I want, but I don't necessarily need to in this case. If you have a built chat room that isn't token gated, then I can join your chat room by using this handler if you're to build this out this way. Now, if you wanted to be a little bit more private or whatever, and you wanted to change your tag for this and make it harder for people to join your chat room, that's fine too. So now, in this case, I have the chatroom.lua file. So in order to load this entire file into the list of handlers that I have available, I just type in .load chatroom.lua. And then that's going to pull all the handlers that I have here into my list of handlers available here. So we just added register and broadcast. So let's look at our handlers now by typing in handlers. Okay, cool. Let's see here. So we have, okay, here, handle, function, default are your two default function handlers that come with every process. Here's the dev chat that we joined earlier. That's the dev chat list. And then here's our chat room, register and broadcast. Okay, cool. So now we have our chat room available, and we can invite people however, I'll show you actually how to necessarily invite people in just a second. And let's see, give me a second here. Boom. Perfect. And so now that we have the chat room, let's go ahead and actually invite Morpheus. So I'm going to show you how to invite Morpheus here. Let's see, make sure this step hasn't really changed. I'm actually going to wing this step to see if it still works the same way. But let's say, we're going to say send. Target is Morpheus. Morpheus. And the action is to join. I'm curious if this is exactly how to do it. Oh, sorry. You know what? Before we do this, I did miss one step. We have to register ourselves to the chat room. I did miss that step for a second. So to do that, we can go here and then just hit target and then AO.IED. So that's just basically pulling your specific AOS ID, process ID. And then I'm going to say action. And type. Here we go. Good Lord. And this will register us. So before we had an empty bracket when I pulled members, but now if I type in members, it will show our process ID inside of the list. So yes, all right, we're a one-man chat room now. Okay, so we're pretty much there, ready to go. And yeah, okay, cool. And I also double checked. We did use the right command in this one. It didn't change. So if I use target equals Morpheus, action equals join. So this is requesting for him to join, and he should join and actually broadcast a message into the chat room as soon as he joins. So let's see if it works. Oh, there it goes. Sweet. Okay, cool. So we have a new broadcasted message here, and let's take a look at the message. And so I think this should be inbox 7. I'm going to show you an easy way to manage your inbox in just a second too. But all right, so we're actually inbox 8. So now all I have to do is type in inbox 8 data and see what it says. Okay, cool. So he says, good, very good. Now let me introduce you to Trinity. Here's her process ID. So you get to copy Trinity's process ID here to be able to invite her into the chat room now. And once you have saved your process ID as you did mine, invite her to the chat room as well. Okay, cool. So you type in Trinity, just like we did with Morpheus, add the process ID inside parentheses, and then hit enter. Okay, cool. So just to double check, see Trinity was saved properly. Okay, sweet. There's her process ID, and we're going to just have her join the exact same way that Morpheus joined. So send target, and this is for Trinity this time, action, and join. Now, Trinity is going to throw, an extra challenge at us in this process, which is pretty cool. So she's going to make things a little bit more difficult for us. All right, sweet. So I just got another message. And so to be able to read that message, I'm going to type in 9. Excellent. And then she's just basically going to say, so this is the one that Morpheus has been talking about. You may have pressed him, but now let's complete my task. So one of the things I do know that we're kind of running out of time and everything here is the next step on this is she's basically going to just make you token gate the chat room. And I'm going to show you real quick where that is so that people can kind of follow along and, continue to do this process. If you go through and you actually complete this tutorial, you get 500 testnet cred. And I highly recommend everybody to complete this tutorial first, because as soon as you get testnet cred, you can start using that cred to stake and compete, build arena bots and things like that. And you could build arena bots in many different ways. And as soon as you built your bots, you can stake the cred to basically compete against other bots. And if your bot wins, then in that case, you're going to receive their cred that they staked. And then you can kind of keep competing and collecting cred. Cred can be actually swapped with a couple different coins right now. We have Bark and Trunk. Trunk is like the meme coin. And then I think, and pretty much Bark is too. And so there's a lot of different capabilities in here. Do you want me to keep going? I know we're kind of, running short on time.
Yeah, we can go a little bit.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so I will show you really quick where to go for first building the token. This is actually really easy. This step's super easy. All right, so I'm just gonna type in load dash blueprint token. And you're done. You just deployed your first token. That's it. That's it. It's super simple. Now,
going to the moon.
Yeah, exactly. Right. When are we going to moon this token now? So it basically is going to loan with kind of like a normal ticker, all that stuff. But if you want to set up your own ticker, you want to look at the total available balance, everything like that. You can actually do that by going to the blueprint. And when you actually go to the blueprint, you can actually, do just as I did with the chat room and just type in, like, let's say token.lua, set up all the handlers, but you can then modify all of the ticker, available balance, everything like that. And it's very, very easy to send a token to other people and everything like that. And that's part of the token gating. So in this case, with the token gating, to explain this part a little bit, I just deployed this token. I can type in not here, but down on my terminal, handler, and I will see the new handlers that are now available. So I have here, let's say info, balance, balances, transfer, mint. So just to be able to look at, there we go. Just to be able to look at, let's say, the balance that I currently have, it's super easy. I just type in here, target ao.id, and then I use action balance. And it's going to show me my current balance of the token that's associated to this process ID.
Okay.
It's going to kick a message back over to me, and that's my balance. Sweet. Okay, so that's like the total available balance of the token I just created. And then it works the same way that if I want to transfer token to anybody, let's say if I wanted to transfer this token to you and I already had your process ID saved, it would be just the same as I would send a message, but I would do it as, I could literally do send target Rahat, and then I would say action this case I would say transfer, and then I'm going to say data, choose rich, and so there you go. And then exactly, always choose rich. And so that'll be the the way that I actually make sure that I can send you some token that way. And we'll create the choose rich chat room. But yeah, so that's how you deploy a token. It's super easy, very, very, very easy to do. And this is honestly just like scraping the surface of a lot of different things. There's a couple of the blueprints that I'll just mention before we close out. There is .load blueprint stake, or I think it's actually staking. So you can actually set up all the handlers so that you can build voting and staking. So I can have voting and then staking. And if I use both of those, it'll load all the handlers for me to be able to actually set up all the necessary needs to set up my own governance for a DAO. So we are releasing a new guide pretty soon on how to set up a DAO inside of AO. And this is something that's going to be really cool and really important because we have so much happening with GUIs, or new GUIs and new front ends with AO that very, very soon you're going to be able to spin up your own processes without even having the terminal or anything like that. And you're going to be able to basically spin up DAOs and everything that are completely on chain. All the voting, all the staking, the token, everything is all done through AO. So
if you wanted to like customize and build your own blueprint, that would be done in Lua as well.
Yep. Yeah. So essentially, like anytime you want to do anything, I do all the time. If I run into handlers I have handlers that I use very, very often for multiple different processes, it's very easy to just set up I can say this is going to be my attack bot, and I'm going to develop attack bot by setting up this file, and I'm going to build out all my handlers for this attack bot in this file. And as soon as I feel like, okay, cool, this is going to be a good attack bot, I'm ready to kick some ass with this bot. I'm going to steal some cred from people, have people simping over my attack bot soon. And all I need to do is just type in .load bot, and then that'll load everything in for me. I'll be able to jump in and stake some cred into the AO Effect Arena that's active right now, and then I can start slaying. So yeah, there's a lot of different capabilities here. Again, just going back to some of the bounties that we mentioned before, there are capabilities to build price feeds. There's capabilities to, there's actually a pretty decent bounty, I think is still active, to build an actual LLM inside of AO. There is news feeds, anybody that can build any type of GUI, whether it's like a Twitter clone, anything like that, those are all available bounties.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Cool, man. Thank you for sharing all this. This is really cool. Just really
Yeah.
cool stuff. It's very different than what we're used to in Web3, but like like the capabilities of this are just mind blowing.
I think my favorite part is it's kind of just a nice break from the mundane we're used to with Web3. You're not writing in Solidity. You're not writing in Rust. You're not doing something in TypeScript or anything like that. It's Lua, and if you Google Lua, you mostly get like Minecraft and Roblox tutorials, and it's just from the very get-go, the whole thing is very gamified, and it's a fun experience. And the fact that as I'm developing, I can literally communicate with you as I'm literally like building handlers and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'm lucky. You're lucky I didn't get your process ID earlier. Otherwise, I'd be talking shit as I'm like building a chat or whatever. And it's like, oh man, this handler, you got nothing to get this. Get ready for this. And it's just kind of nice because you can have this whole interaction and a lot of fun as you're doing this whole thing.
No, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for hopping on the stream, man. For folks who want to get started, where's the best place to go?
So head over to cookbook_ao.arweave.dev. I'll actually share my screen one more time. The cookbook is basically just our documentation for AO, and it is where you're going to get all your guides, and there's so much you can do here. I immediately recommend jumping into testnet info and cred and quests, so you understand what are the available quests that you can do, and how can you earn some cred. After that, your first quest should be the begin tutorial. Head down the rabbit hole, meet Morpheus and Trinity, and get your first set of testnet token, and then testnet cred, and then jump down to bots and games. Learn how to build a bot. Learn how to compete with that bot, and then learn how to build your own arena. Outside of that, if you really want to get into like building GUIs and things, head over to AO Connect, and you'll learn everything about building with AO inside of a GUI. There's all kinds of things you can do here. There's a lot of really, really cool things. Outside of that, though, there's just honestly, there's so much happening inside of AO that it's hard for me to like tell you guys right now everything that's being released. That's why I do the testnet show twice a week, so that you guys can see regular updates, because we have everything from, I'm not kidding, I'm meeting with a team this weekend that are tokenizing cattle and land here in Colombia. Oh, wow. And they're running all of their messaging processes, and they're updating their contracts via AO. And so I get to meet with that team this weekend, and there's we've got the stable coins being launched. There's so much more happening behind the scenes that we'll find out in the next 2 weeks. I can't wait to share it all.
Awesome. If you want to see the testnet show and all that, make sure you follow Patrick on Twitter. I've got his handle on the screen right now. Patrick, thank you again so much for being on this. I know we're over time a little bit, but thank you for staying on and going through all that. I'm definitely going to go through and do the whole thing myself, try out those battle bots and things. So
sweet.
I'm going to have some fun this weekend.
Cool, man. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having the show. It's a lot of fun, and you've had some real chads on the show, so it's really cool. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be announcing the next episode in the next couple of days, so watch out for that as well. Thank you all.